Welcome back to another loose nut printing video. In this video we'll be running the belts, getting the motor mounts built and tensioned. So let's get right into it. First thing we're going to be doing is getting these motor mounts built up so we can get the belts ran. First thing we're doing here is getting the motor tensioner put in and first, and now we're going to get the M5 by 10s on. And for some reason I wasn't fully thinking here. I don't know what I was thinking when I could just slip one in first and then try the other. It just makes more sense to do it the way I just did it there. You get both of them on and then slip it on. And the reason I'm doing it this way, I figured a little trick out to get the bearings and washers onto the assembly is actually build it inverted, and made it a whole lot easier. So I'm just using simple M5 by 30 screws here, and you notice that the washers I'm using aren't actual 5 by 1 mil thick washers. I'm using what's called PTFE washers, and that's what these look like. So that's really the only difference that I'm doing here, is I'm using them, and they just require me to use double the amount than what you'd regularly use. I'm using the normal bearings that Voron calls for to doing this. So that's really the only change I've done here, is doing that. So now with that partial assembly done, we can now get the bottom half onto the assembly and have one of the motor mount assemblies with the bearings, or belt bearings, or idler bearings, or whatever they label them as, fully completed. And now that completed, it wasn't that much of a hassle. I thought I was going to have a bit of a fight with these, just doing it the way it looked, but yeah, this made it a lot easier. Now we can simply move on to getting the motor mounted onto the actual motor mount, and those just require an M3 by 30 screw to hold them on, and you don't want to tighten them up too much. And this is just the same procedure as the other side, but this is in reverse. So instead of having one on one side, it's two. So that's those little PTFE washers I was showing there again. Yeah, so just simply stack everything up like the CAD file shows, and shouldn't have any issue with it. Went together really nicely. This whole project of these parts have been really nice so far. Been really pleased on the quality of the engineering that went behind all this printer. It's remarkable that this is an open source free printer that anyone could build themselves if they have the resources, or the friends that have the resources to do it. It's great. So just simply getting the one side, the other side done, and now with it fully completed, we can slip it onto the extrusion. And well, this bites me in the butt here in a second. You'll see what I did. Kind of chuckled at myself for not paying attention. Get everything nicely checked and tightened up and aligned, and then I realized after I get the motor tensioner screw in, and that's simply a M3 by 23. A little odd. That's the type of screws I'm using. I can get different odd lengths like that. And if you just realized what I did, I had the second motor mount rotated 90 degrees to the other one. So whoops, wasn't paying attention there. At least I didn't forget to make sure that the plugs for the motors were on or at the back of the printer, not the front. I'm surprised I didn't pull that one. This time getting the second motor on, I don't know, just Murphy's Law, you know. First one went on clear sailing, no issue. And now the second one just was being a little tough guy and not want to go into its home, so it took a little bit of fighting, and finally got it to get the screws to line up and pop in. And once those popped in, we could simply make sure the motor was nice and loose there and get the last one in and get this bad boy bolted up. And once I changed the washers on the front idler pulleys or bearings, the movement of it just changed. It was not locking up like it was in the previous episode, so it was great. That fixed that issue where it was locking up and freezing in the front corner on the left or right hand side, sorry. So now we're moving on to actually getting these belts onto this printer. First step, we're going to have to remove the hot end to access the screw holes for the belt clamps, or where the belt clamps tighten. And there's the long belt that we're going to be using. And I started off doing this where I started on the one side and made sure that the loose end was closest to the print head, or sorry, the tail of the spool was close to the print head, and then ran the free end all the way around and just slowly made my way around. And I was following this image here on how to route the belt through the pulleys and everything, because not doing a Core XY before, this is such a confusing process to understand how this belt actually runs through everything. It's just wow. I didn't show both belts getting ran because doing the first one was not terrible. I messed up. I did the high belt first. I should have done the low belt, and that would have made probably a lot of difference. But not doing a Core XY before, yeah. I did the top belt first, and that probably really bit me in the butt after trying to get the lower belt in. But yeah, once it was all ran and everything, I could easily get the belt nice and tightened and tensioned to a loose fit. And you can see myself here just trying to get the tail of the belt ran, and that's what I was meaning, to have the spool side towards the print head. And there, I had it nice, got the right length, and simply cut it. And now I found a simple file online to help lock the tool head to the front of the printer, so then it'll make it easier to tension the belt. I'll leave a link for those in the description. And now with those printed and everything, we can simply get those onto the printer, and those just simply lock into the aluminum extrusion with a couple of M3s by, I think they were 10s, I can't remember. They were just in my pile of screws I have from my RCs. And all I did was push the tool head to the front and held it tightly, and then locked those down, so then I could get a good tension on the belt. And I did that for both sides, and now with those down, I could simply tension up the motor. I found getting the position on the one side good and tight, and then clocking the motor by hand to match the screws that are closest to the back to equal out gave me a beautiful tension. You'll see here right away. The top belt I've already tensioned, and you can see that it's got a nice spring. The bottom belt doesn't have much tension, it's very loose. So do that now to the other side, and we'll be ready to remove these brackets. And I figured out after getting the second side on that makes it a whole lot easier just to remove the T-nuts and screws from these brackets like I was doing here. Just push it over, you got more than enough room to simply get them out. And once they're out, you can just store them away for later, because obviously with this being a Core XY, I've read that they do go through belts a little bit quicker than traditional. But now with those off, check the tension to make sure it's still good, and yeah, wow, can feel the motors. But now the bearings don't feel as rough, and it moves so nice. But that's all I got for this video. Thanks for watching, and have a good one. Like and comment, guys.